Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Steph, and would you believe that I read 22 books in October while working and going out and doing things? I read 22 books. It is 10 p.m. at night, so lighting not great. I look a little bit gross, but that is fine. I don't even know where to start with this video. It is probably going to be a long one, so settle in, okay? Get yourself a drink, probably some water, and let's get started. So if you guys watched my last video, you will have seen that I actually set an October Spooktober TBR, and I did read all of those books plus additional ones. So we're going to start with what was, I think, the biggest book of the month, and it is The Violence by Delilah S. Dawson. This book was very long, I think maybe a bit longer than it needed to be. In this book, we are following 3 generations of women within a family. So we are following grandmother, mother, daughter, and how each of them has interacted with violence from men in their pasts, in their present. And while we are kind of going through each of these women's struggles and revelations in history, we are also following the world at the start of what is a new pandemic. So we in society in this book have just gotten over the coronavirus. And then in this book, another virus starts up called the violence. The violence is contagious, and the only symptom is unspeakable rage. Like, if you have the violence at any random time, you will just go into a fugue state where you will kill whoever or whatever is in front of you. There's no cure, there's no knowledge about it because it's a brand new virus, but it was kind of spooky and mostly just sad. There were so many moments in this book that even as someone who's never experienced the things that these women experience, there were so many moments where I was like, whew. I mean, one of the first lines in this book that I remember, and this is after reading 22 other books, was she looked around and everything was perfect, but nothing was right. And this just really solidified my love for Delilah S. Dawson. I am going to read all of her books, and I would only recommend if you don't think this is going to trigger you. This didn't trigger me, especially because, again, I've never experienced what these women have, but I can see how this book would be very, very triggering to some people. So definitely check your triggers if you think you should. Then I went in kind of a different direction, and I decided to read The Radium Girls by Kate Moore. This book follows one of the most horrific things I think I've ever read about. This follows a bunch of women, okay? So during, I think it was the 20s and 30s, this book is set, non-fiction again. It followed women who worked at a watch painting factory. So these women were using these tiny, tiny little paintbrushes to paint over the numbers on watch faces with radium paint, because these watches were to be sent off into the war and to soldiers so that they could look at the time and know what time it was, no matter the situations they were in. So this paint would glow in the dark. That was the whole reason these women got these jobs, to paint glow in the dark paint on these watch faces. Now, what the women weren't told by their employers, who were very aware of what radium did to people, is that because the brushes were so fine, the brushes would fray very easily, and these companies did not want to provide women with an endless supply of paintbrushes. So these women would they would lick the tip of the paintbrush, dip it into the radium paint, and then paint it on the watch face. And after the bristles started to fray again, they would lick the paintbrush that had radium paint residue, dip it into the radium paint, and continue on. Some women were doing this after every number on the watches. Some were doing it every other watch face. But the fact is that these women were ingesting radioactive paint for years. And this book followed basically what the effects of radium will do to a person's body when it is being ingested consistently over long periods of time, and how the people in charge, the head honchos, the big pigs at the top, refused to help these women, refused to keep them safe in the first place. And when these women came forward and said, look, we are all fucking dying, and it's the only thing we have in common is that we all worked at this factory, there is something wrong with the paint that you were letting us use, no one wanted to take responsibility for it. And it is so sad, because there were so many deaths, and they weren't quick deaths, they were long, horrific deaths where people's bones were fragmenting and falling apart, and women were in constant pain and suffering, and it was horrific. And there was a little chapter at the end of this book, which I'm not going to go into because it was a very short chapter, but people really do not learn from their mistakes. Like, history will continue to repeat itself, and yeah, this was a very horrific read, and I learned so much from this book. I am not a big nonfiction reader, but I was rattling off facts from this book for a couple of days with my family, so I highly recommend. I think this is such an important read, and I really did enjoy the time I spent with it. Next, I picked up Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia. Now, this book is one that I purchased because it was a big deal on the book spaces for a while, but I never thought I would really enjoy, because this book is set in, I think, the 50s, and I typically don't like historical fiction all that much, but regardless, we follow our main character who's received a letter from her newlywed cousin saying, you need to come here and help me because there is something fucking wrong with this house and there's something wrong with my new family and I need your help. So our main character goes to this like mansion, this kind of like decrepit, falling to pieces mansion in Mexico to kind of save her cousin, either see if her cousin is being abused somehow or if her cousin is just sort of losing her marbles. And I really enjoyed this book. I really truly did not think I would, but I really enjoyed it. I think our main character, Noemi. I think Noemi was a really great perspective to read. She was very like fierce and stubborn and unbreakable. And I don't remember what the character's name was. There was one of the cousins who lived in the house that I really liked. I mean, I had issues with him the whole way through. This book is, I don't want to spoil it because I went into this knowing absolutely nothing about it and I thought it was so enjoyable. All I'm going to say is this family is sus. Like, things are sus. They have like a lot of really specific rules, but they don't explain the reasons for the rules. They're just kind of like, well, no, you have to follow them because that's the way that things are. And I thought this was a really fun adventure. There was something I didn't enjoy. I think the way the book ended, it ended in that typical like hopeful, like there's positive things coming in the future kind of vibe, but I don't think it necessarily fit with the rest of the book. But that was my only massive issue. Next, I picked up Black Sheep by Rachel Harrison. All I'm going to say is this woman is just so amazing at pairing a typical popular horror trope or creature and just putting it up against real human struggles. In this book, we are following Vesper. Vesper grew up in a hella religious community, like a very oppressive religious family, and when she was 18 she got the fuck out. She's like, I can't be here anymore, I need to live my own life away from these people. So she does, and that's going great for her until she receives an invitation to her cousin's wedding, and she thinks, I'm a strong enough person now that I can go back to my family who probably hate me and never want to see me again, and I'm strong enough because I want to be there for my cousin. However, when Vesper gets there, it is very much like, oh, you thought you had gotten over the past, but all you've been doing is running from it. There was some really fun characters in this book, and I think the ending was pretty horrific, I'll be honest. I think this would be a great movie visually, but at the end of the day, this book is just about a woman, Vesper, who wants to be loved for who she is. Like, she just wants people to love her for the person that she is and not for what she can do for them or what she'll offer them. And as a human being, I think that resonates with a lot of people, or will if you read this book, so I would suggest it. I don't think I'm going to hate a single book by Rachel Harrison. I think I'm going to love everything I read by her. Then I picked up kind of like a break from all the like heavy family stuff, and I decided to try Grimstone by Sophie Lark. Now, this is the first book in what is going to be a trilogy, I think. This book follows Remy. Remy has just moved into her uncle's, I don't know if it's a mansion, I think it's a manor. She moves into her uncle's decaying manor with her younger brother because the uncle has passed, left her the house in the will, and she wants to basically flip the house, renovate it, and then sell it for a profit. So she moves to this new town called Grimstone. It is very gothic, it is very dark, it is very eerie, but most of the people seem lovely, except for her new neighbor, who is a doctor and who the entire town is convinced killed his wife and his baby. So obviously, being neighbors, their paths intersect and cross over, and I thought this book was so fun. I gave this book a 5-star rating. Now, in hindsight, I don't necessarily think it was a 5-star book, but nonetheless, I really, really enjoyed it. And this edition that I have, I don't know about other editions, but this one has illustrations and it has a playlist, and I think that Sophie Lark, for some reason, is the only author whose playlists I will actively go and listen to during the reading process. So I think this was really fun. I would highly recommend it. Then, man, this was a really good reading month. I know 22 books in itself is a really good reading month, but I just read some bangers this month. The next book I picked up is How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix. This is the last Grady Hendrix book I had on my TBR, so I am up to date as far as Grady Hendrix is concerned. This book is literally what it says on the title. We are following two siblings whose parents have just died, and a lot of stuff happens, but basically these siblings decide that they are going to try and sell their parents' house. However, the energy in the house is strange, okay? Things are moving by themselves. The vibes are just completely off. And the brother, Mark, is like, yo, this house is fucking haunted. Like, I don't think we're going to be able to sell this house in the current state that it's in. We're going to need to figure out how to get rid of the bad juju in this house before we sell it. And our main character, Louise, does not want to have any of it. She's like, nope, there's no such thing as houses being haunted or possessed or ghosts or supernatural stuff. None of that exists. We're just going to sell this house. But things get progressively worse to the point where even Louise is like, holy fuck, this house is haunted. So I really love this. I love a realistic sibling dynamic in books. This definitely had it. And overall, Louise and Mark, they were just such fun characters. This book, I think, might be one of the lighter Grady Hendrix books that I've read. Obviously, there is trauma surrounding parental deaths. I get that. But I think for the most part, this book was just very fun. I think the banter probably like lightened the vibes significantly. But also, trigger warning for puppets. There are a lot of puppets in this book, which I was not expecting, and I was very uncomfortable. Next, I finally caught up on Riley Sager. So this is With a Vengeance, his newest release. How to explain this book without getting into a full discussion about Riley Sager? I think his books are progressively getting more insane. I feel like with each release we're getting from Riley Sager, like this man is falling apart at the seams because the amount of reveals is just too much. Let's get into this plot quickly. We are following main character Anna. Anna's entire family is gone, okay? They were essentially, based on one inciting incident, taken out, died, gone, destroyed. She's left completely alone in the world, but she knows the 6 people responsible for that inciting incident. So she gathers them all on a train and is going to get her revenge, basically. And it is a very and then there were none situation. One person dies and they're like, oh, okay, maybe it was an accident, but then another person dies and they're like, okay, well, so someone on this train is a killer. It was a very fun idea, very fun concept. I really felt for Anna. I can't imagine losing your entire family. And I believed her trauma. I think she was a very believable character. However, like I was just saying, there were too many reveals to the point where I got to the end of the book, and similar to The Only One Left, I was struggling to keep the reveals and what was actually truth straight in my head. Like, everything was just getting a bit jumbled by the end. I'm not going to be specific because I do think it would be spoilery, but there were just too many reveals too close together at the end, and I was left with a question of like, hang on a second. So that reveal counteracts that reveal, but if we are believing that, then we have to go back to the second page of the book and then assume that that was a lie. It was one of those situations where I think there were just too many reveals. The fact that this was set in the 50s? 40s? 50s? 50s. The fact this was set in the 50s actually didn't bother me at all. I'm starting to think maybe it's not historical I have an issue with, it's the writing style of the historical I have an issue with, because I've read a few of them and I haven't hated any of them, but I just think that Riley Sager needs to calm the fuck down with his reveals. I think some of the reveals, like Home Before Dark and Lock Every Door, they were more fun because they were so out there, crazy bananas, but no one would have predicted them. And that's what made them really fun books. But then, yeah, we're getting to a point now where it's just, there's so many reveals and so many plot twists that nothing makes sense anymore. I gave this a 4.5 star. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a really, really fun book. I just don't know how much longer Riley Sager can keep putting out books, because, I mean, books like this are just, I don't think you should finish a thriller and still be confused, and that is very much the vibe that his most recent releases are giving. So he probably needs to tone it back just a tiny bit. Next, I read another book I loved. It is A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. Now, I had an idea for a video last year or the year before. I've mentioned it briefly on this channel, where I was going to spend an entire month just reading vampire books. Obviously, didn't happen. This was one of the books I purchased for that video. This follows Dracula's first bride, and what a fun concept. Again, historical. Was worried. Shouldn't have been worried. I really love this. We follow this girl who is on the brink of death, and a stranger comes up to her and basically says, I can save you, but it is your choice. I'm not going to force you to be saved. I can just leave you and you can die. Obviously, this is Dracula. She chooses to be saved, and thus begins her life of living with Dracula. Fun fact, I don't think the words Dracula were ever said in this book. Like, I don't think we ever refer to him as Dracula, but it's quite clearly Dracula. He mentions that issue with Van Helsing at some point, or the issue with the Harks. Is that what they're called? The Harks? The Harkers? I haven't read Dracula. One day I will. It's on my list. But it's obviously Dracula we're talking about in this book. So we are following Constanza. We're following Constanza and her life with Dracula, and how everything starts great, and how things get progressively worse, and how he gets other people to join in their relationship. And I think at the end of the day, this book is just about abusive relationships, really. I mean, we can say this is about Dracula and his first wife, but take it a tiny step further. This is just about abusive relationships and how the good times are so fucking good, but the bad times make you want to die. And it is possible for someone to love you too much. Like, when you love something so much that you suffocate it, you know? It was a really interesting book. It is a really quick read as well. This was a very, very short book, so I really enjoyed it. I would recommend it. And the fact that it was about vampires definitely didn't hurt. Let's take a water break, guys. The next book that I finished, but I had been reading throughout the month, these are all from like what I finished first. For context, is Of the Flesh. So like I said, I was reading this throughout the month, but I finished it at this point in the month. This is a short story collection. Allegedly, it's about modern horror. I care to disagree. I don't think this was the strongest collection. I did not rate anything 5 stars. So the highest I rated a story was 4.5 stars, which is Apples by Amelia Hart. Yeah, this is not a strong short story collection for me. I actually don't know if it's worth keeping on my shelves. I think that as long as there is a 5-star or a couple of 5-star short stories in a collection, it doesn't really matter how bad the rest of them are. But this entire collection was just so average. I don't know what else to tell you guys other than I wouldn't really recommend it. And if you are going to read it, at the very least, do not spend your hard-earned money on it like I did. I just don't think calling a collection theme modern horror is enough to tie everything together, especially because a lot of these stories weren't horror. Like, there were so many of these stories I would not classify as horror, and yeah, it fell very, very flat for me, so I would not recommend this one. I think I may unhaul it. I haven't decided yet. But after that, I think I decided I just needed a little pick-me-up. So I finally read William by Mason Coyle. This is a tiny little baby novella, so again, I can't really say too much without spoiling the entire thing. But we follow a man named Henry, I believe. Let's fact check. Yes. Henry lives with his wife. They are both very technologically advanced, and from the very get-go, it's very clear, like, something has happened in their marriage because they just don't seem very connected. They seem very distant, and his wife is pregnant, so that's adding stress. But regardless, Henry tinkers. He creates fun little, like, robots. I say fun little robots. They're all pretty terrifying, but none so much as William. So when we first meet William, he is a torso, arms, and head. So he doesn't have legs, he is stuck in a chair, and he is very mocking the way he talks to Henry. He does not talk like an AI would talk to its creator. He is spiteful, and he seems to be very, very emotional, which is very strange for a robot that Henry created himself. Like, he didn't expect his creation to act like this. But the plot kind of kicks up a notch when Henry's wife invites some of her friends over for lunch, and everyone thinks it's a great decision for them to go meet William. I don't want to say too much about this book. I was thinking, okay, it was like pretty average, pretty standard, but then the closer and closer I got to the end, the more my heart rate picked up, and I really enjoyed this book, so I'm very glad that I read it this season. And the last book from my first stack, because there is another stack here, is The Haters by Robin Harding. This book follows a debut author. She's just published her first book, very excited about it, but she still keeps her day job, which is a counselor at a high school. And her book features a lot of teenage characters who are going through various types of trauma. A random anonymous person online writes a review saying, not sure if anyone knows, but this woman is actually a school counselor in her free time, like in her daytime. Like her daytime job is a school counselor. Isn't it funny how she's probably taken her students' stories and fictionalized them and now is profiting off of them? And she leaves a 1-star review, and this sparks absolute hate. Our author in question, Cameron, is absolutely cancelled and slaughtered online. Like, her Goodreads reviews are tanking. Everyone hates this book, and Cameron is like, it's not true. Like, obviously I could just ignore it, but no, I'm getting to the fucking bottom of this. I am finding out who this anonymous reviewer is, and I'm going to tell them to take down their review. And she does it initially very earnestly and just like, why would someone be so cruel? But I mean, you can already tell this is not a good situation. As people constantly say online, the reviews are not for the author, okay? The reviews are for the reader. So that's the whole thing that happens in this book. I will say it was a fine book, but this is not one of Robin Harding's best books, so this one I will be unhauling after this video. I think I gave it like a 2.5 star. It was like a fairly average read. The reveal wasn't super shocking. Like, to me, it was just a standard, like, obviously that was what was going to happen. So I liked it enough to read it, but not enough to keep it. So that one is going to be unhauled. But moving on to our second stack of books. The next one I read is The Center by Aisha Manazir Siddiqui. And this book, first of all, why does the UK always get the weird covers, and why does Australia always get the UK covers instead of the American ones? The American cover, FYI, is beautiful. So don't know why we got stuck with The Neverending Mouth. This book does have quite a slow start. I think it takes a significant amount of time for things to pick up, but let's get into the setup. We are following our main character, Anissa. And she is a translator. She speaks English and another language that I do not remember from the top of my head. Urdu. She speaks Urdu. And we're just kind of following her life and how she meets a man named Adam. And she and Adam really like each other. He knows like a bunch of different languages and he's fluent in all of them. But things progress. Anissa and Adam decide to go visit her parents. And when the plane lands, despite Anissa trying to teach Adam Urdu for 6 months and him never picking it up, their plane lands and he starts speaking it fluently, like better than Anissa herself. And at first she's like, okay, you speak Urdu this whole time, like why would you lie to me and pretend that you didn't? He goes, no, I don't know how to speak it, like I've only just learned to impress you and your parents. And she thinks, no, something's up. How did you become fluent? How did you become a better speaker than me in such little time? Like, it doesn't make any fucking sense. And Adam tells her the truth, that he goes to this like retreat, I guess you could call it, called The Center. And at The Center, you pick any language you want to learn and you learn this language over 2 weeks. You pay an extravagant amount of money, but you go to the center for 2 weeks and you come out having learnt a brand new language. And Anissa's like, well, I need to get in on that. So she does. This book took a turn I did not expect. I think maybe it was very ignorant of me not to. I wasn't reading this book super deeply. I was just reading it going along for the ride. So I think if I'd been paying more attention, I definitely would have seen the direction that this book was going. But this was real fun. I did not think I was going to enjoy this book, but this was really, really fun. And yeah, all I want to say is I still hate this cover, but I really loved the contents. So I guess I'm going to keep it a little while longer. But after having quite a few heavy books back to back to back, I picked up what was going to be maybe my favorite romance of the month, and it is Your Coffin or Mine by Jacqueline Hyde. This book was adorable. We are following our social media influencer named Aubrey. I remember that from the top of my head. I know I looked at the back, but I don't think it even says it on the back. Oh, it does too. Anyway, we're following Aubrey. She's basically just broken off her engagement, and she ends up going to Romania for a little getaway and ends up staying in this castle turned hotel. And there she meets the owner. And the owner, his name is Vlad. And he is a vampire. He is in fact the vampire. It's Dracula. She ends up staying at Dracula's castle, and I love this book. Vlad starts as such a grumpy old man. Like, why is this stupid little human in my space? She's annoying. But sparks fly, things happen. This book was so fucking cute that I immediately purchased the next 2 books in the series after the fact, so you will inevitably see them on this channel at some point. But I fucking loved this book. It was ridiculous, and it was like super cheesy and over the top, but it was exactly what I needed in the moment, and it did not disappoint. It is like a grumpy sunshine, just happy vibes. So I really liked it. I would highly recommend. Then we went back in time a little bit, and we decided to pick up, as in me, myself, and I, decided to pick up John Mars's first published book, which is called When You Disappeared. I think it was initially titled something else. This book was... it was just good. It was just a good, solid thriller. I think typically most people prefer John Mars's speculative fiction over his like standard thrillers, but this book was really, really interesting. We are following a woman. She has a great life. She's got 3 kids and she's got a husband and everything is great. But then one morning she wakes up and her husband is gone, as he should. He has work, but then she gets a call from his work saying he's not here. And she kind of freaks out, but she thinks maybe he's like, I don't know, didn't want to go to work today. Maybe his run took longer than he expected, but night progresses, husband's still not there, and she is obviously very concerned, thinks that something's happened, he's been attacked, he's been kidnapped. But while we are reading from her very frantic, scared POV, we are also reading from his POV about the day that he decides to abandon his family and go start an entirely new life where he doesn't have any connections to them whatsoever. So we are following this poor woman whose life has fallen apart because her husband is missing. We see her trying to raise her 3 kids in a way where they're not going to be entirely fucking traumatized that their dad is gone, trying to support them because she is a stay-at-home mum, so she has to work enough to support her entire family. And it was just heartbreaking to read from her POV. But then we switch over to his POV, and his POV is very much like, I thought about my family for a second, but then I pushed that thought away and I continued getting high and drinking with my brand new friends in Paris. And I fucking hated him. And I'm gonna tell you guys, the book does not let up. I do not know. I don't think John Mars ever intended for the audience to care about him as a character. I surely fucking didn't. Even when there is a justification provided about why he abandoned his family, he was still incorrect. So I just was so frustrated, and I think that if an author can get me to hate a character as much as I hated the man in this book, he is talented. So John Mars, stand out, I loved it. And the fact that this was his debut is shocking to me. If only the rest of us could be so lucky, right? But I really enjoyed that book. It really makes me want to get back into John Mars because I've got so many of his books unread on my shelves. Next, I picked up a fun little novella called Graveyard Shift by ML Rio, and as someone who had only just recently read If We Were Villains, I was not sure what we were getting into, okay? I've heard a lot of people say that this book could have been good, and it just wasn't. I don't think this book needed to be what everyone thought it needed to be. This was just a fun little vibey book about 6 people, 5 people, 5 people. 5 people that really don't have any connections to each other than they all take a smoke break at the same time every night and meet at the specific part in a graveyard. And this book was just, again, I can't really spoil it because, like, look how little it is. Anything I say is a spoiler, but we follow these 5 people on a night where they see a freshly dug grave in the ground where there wasn't one previously. And they all think it's very suspicious, and a couple of them are like, no, we actually need to figure out what the fuck's going on here. It was a little bit, bizarre. Like, I had to suspend my disbelief a couple of times, but at the end of the day, this was just a fun, vibey book. It followed characters that I thought were interesting and that I thought were funny, and I mean, the cover is really cute, and it was just so short and fun. It was everything that I really expected it to be. I don't know what people were expecting to get out of a book so short, but a lot of people seemed disappointed, and I don't understand why. I thought it was fun. I thought it was good vibes. Next, I picked up... Oh, I think I should also preface, that was the last book from my actual Spooktober TBR. So that was my entire TBR, And at this point in the month, I was like, well, there's still so many days left in the month. I need to find other things to read. So I decided adding books to my TBR willy-nilly. One of them was Made for Each Other by Lynn Painter. This book was, I think, my favorite Lynn Painter adult romance so far. We are following a woman whose name is irrelevant. Her name is Abby. Abby is a cleaner, she's a maid, and she cleans this penthouse every week and notices that it never seems like the owner is ever there. So when her apartment is being fumigated, she's like, maybe I'll just stay in my client's penthouse for a couple of weeks. I'm sure he won't notice, which is all well and good until one day her client's parents are in the penthouse and they're like, oh my god, you're the girlfriend he's been telling us about all these months. And she goes, yeah, I gotta go. I'll see you later. So then his parents go to him and they're like, hey Declan, we just met the girlfriend that you've been telling us about for months. Like, why didn't you tell us she was gonna be at the penthouse today? And Declan's like, this is awkward. I don't have a fucking girlfriend. Who the fuck did my parents just meet? So he tracks down Abby and they decide, well, to kind of like keep it even, make it fair between the two of them, she's been essentially breaking in and entering and living at his apartment free of charge for weeks or for days at that point. He's like, okay, well, so I could go and press charges and I could make you lose your job, but I won't do that if you fake being my girlfriend so my parents don't know I've been lying to them this whole time. So it's a fake dating situation, but it was really cute. I really love these characters and I just like Lynn Painter books. I've said it before though, and I'll say it again. She needs to pick a new trope. I don't know how many more books by Lynn Painter can possibly have a fake dating trope. Like, she needs to switch it up. Like, if it's not broke, don't fix it. I understand that concept, but she needs to try something else, like, honestly. Also, yes, I got a big boy pimple here. I've decided to name him, what should we name him? Alistair. Yeah, but it's okay. He's on the down now. He's going down. The next book I picked up, Q, The Waterworks. I don't want to talk about anything other than the book and its contents. I decided to read the Matthew Perry memoir called Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing. This book was really, really hard to read, and not because I was emotional or crying through it. It was very, very frustrating to read. I am so lucky that the few things I've been addicted to in my life, I've overcome without any problems, and they were things that were so not what he was going through at all. So as someone who has had things I've been addicted to and has easily been stubborn enough to just brush them aside and say, okay, I'm done with that, it was crazy frustrating to read from his perspective. This entire book, I'm going to be very real, we do start at his childhood and like go through his life up until the point of publication. We do have interspersed chapters, so we start in present day and then we have a chapter from the past and then present day and then a chapter further forward in the past, if you know what I'm saying. I just wanted to scream at him. Like, I wanted to scream at the person writing this book and say, what the fuck are you doing? Like, stop going back to the drugs, stop drinking, stop smoking, like, just stop that shit. But at the same time, like, I can understand why he would do those things. He explained it in a way where it's like, he knows he's stupid for doing it and he hates himself for doing it, but he has got nothing else to do. It was just a very difficult book to read. Like, this entire book was about his addiction and how in every great, successful, proud moment of his life, that addiction was always lingering in the back of his head. And it was really, hard book to read because I was just constantly torn between being so frustrated and mad at him and understanding and trying to be compassionate. Obviously, contextually, this book is a very different read now than it would have been if I'd read it when it was first published. I don't know really what to say. I don't know how to rate this book. Check your triggers. Why is it so hard to say check your triggers? I just talk too fast. Check your triggers before you go into this book. Again, I was fine with it, but it was just, it was a very frustrating read, I'll be honest. I think a lot of people's reviews online were mad at how honest he was. They'd be like, wow, I can't believe that he said that about Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves is such a nice guy. Like, why would he say that? But then the same people didn't really care when that happened in other really famous memoirs that have come out in the last few years. I just think this book was very honest. The way that he like talks about women sometimes, not great. But it's always kind of, he's reflection of how he was acting at the time, but people just seemed to think like he was a disgusting, despicable human being upon reading this book. And I just think he was honest. I think he was an honest, flawed human, and he wrote as if he was a flawed, honest human. So people's reviews really pissed me off about this book. And that's all I'm going to say. Moving swiftly along, I next read a novel love story by Ashley Poston because of a Goodreads achievement thing that I wanted to do. So I picked up my copy, which is the Fairy Lit edition. I'm flexing because look how beautiful she is. This book is a book lover's dream. We follow our main character who loves this book series, but unfortunately the author passed away before the last book in the series was released. Either way, main character is off to a book club retreat, but she's the only one going this year. She's a bit sad, she's a bit down in the dumps. She's in her feels, and she ends up caught in a storm. Her car breaks down. She almost hits a stranger crossing the street. It's all very dramatic. She decides to spend the night in the town because it is storming and her car is broken down. So what's she supposed to do? What's a girl to do? And when she wakes in the morning, she has this vague feeling of like, this town is really familiar. That hotel name is really familiar. And then she realizes she is inside the fictional town from her favorite book series. It was such a good concept. I thought this book was so fun. Like, imagine. Can you imagine? Imagine being transported into Forks. Like, Forks isn't a fucking real city that fucking exists. No, but like, in all honesty, this book was just so fun, lighthearted, small town vibes. I thoroughly enjoyed it. There is one thing I did not enjoy that is very spoilery, so I won't talk about the specifics. But towards the end of the book, there is a thing that the male love interest does that I personally think it's essentially unforgivable. I personally couldn't get past it. Luckily, the main character does. She's kind of like, I understand, it's all good, I know why you did what you did, but I was very frustrated. I did not like him after that point, and that is all I'm going to say. But I would still recommend. Ashley Poston's books are just such fun, lighthearted vibes that give me so much life and joy, so I would highly, highly recommend. So again, at this point in the month, I had finished my Spooktober TBR. I've read a couple of other books, and I thought, let's read the sequel to Grimstone before I entirely forget everything there is to know about Grimstone. So I picked up Monarch. I wish I'd liked this book as much as the first book. I definitely didn't. So we are following Elena. Elena is from the Ukraine. She has essentially signed up to be a mail order bride to get out of the Ukraine and to live in America. She was brought to America by her fiance, whose name is Lorne. He's really sweet, he's really nice, he is a successful best-selling author, and he lives in Grimstone. So she goes to live with him. He's building a house in the middle of renovation, so they decide they're going to stay at the Monarch Hotel, which is owned by Atlas, who is the brother of Dane from the first book in the series. Anyway, they're staying at the Monarch, and straight away when Atlas sees Elena, it's like his world changes. You know, he looks at her and he's like, oh, I need to protect her. Oh, I love her. Oh my god, she is the best thing since sliced bread. Holy fuck. I can't wait to spread peanut butter all over her. And, sorry. And, Elena is kind of like interested in Atlas. She kind of looks at him. She's like, oh, he's kind of cute. But she is engaged to Lorne, her fiance who saved her from the Ukraine. So she's kind of committed to Lorne. But then things get weird because Lorne isn't really acting the way that he did when he was courting Elena. And Atlas gets a really bad vibe from him. Atlas doesn't really trust him. And it's strange because Lorne has a daughter, but he seems to fucking hate his daughter. Like, he doesn't spend any time with his daughter and like palms her off to a bitchy fucking nanny. And Elena is like, oh, these vibes aren't great, but I am engaged. And like, obviously things happen. She doesn't stay like committed to her hella suspicious fiance for very long. This book was, for me, not a vibe because, I mean, without getting into too many spoilers section, this book is a romance between Elena and Atlas, okay? But Elena is engaged the entire time. Now, I'm not saying I'm on Lorne's side. Fuck Lorne, that guy sucks. But, for better or worse, she is in a committed relationship with Lorne. So every time that she and Atlas met up secretly, had like dreamy conversations about a potential future, made out, did anything, I was like, this is just justified cheating. Like, let's be real. I think there are situations in life where cheating, I think, in some very specific circumstances, can be justified. Like, morally, ethically, like, there are some situations where I'm like, yeah, like, I get why you did that. This wasn't really one of them. Like, I understand that she didn't want to break her engagement to Lorne. I understand that if she did that, she would have been sent back to the Ukraine. Like, I get it. But every time she and Atlas had a scene together, and while I was like, oh my god, Atlas is so much better for her, like, I love Atlas, there was a part of me that thought, ew, this is icky, okay? And that feeling just didn't let up the entire book. So this was just not a book written for me. Like, I just don't think any book with this kind of dynamic would have been a good book for me. I also will just say, I'm not gonna, again, not spoiling the ending, but there was just, like, so much fluff, like, so much, like, crap in this section of the book, and then we get to the end, and, like, everything that potentially should have taken up the rest of the book was chucked in at the end, and, like, there's a thing that happens to a character, we get one paragraph explaining it instead of actually explaining it. I don't know, I think this book, it just felt rushed. The ending felt incredibly rushed, and I'm gonna keep it. There were some moments in here that I really enjoyed, but for the most part, like, I can't in good conscience recommend this book to anyone because I didn't love it. But next, I picked up a book I really did enjoy. It is Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. This has been on my TBR for so fucking long. Earlier in the month, I convinced my mom to read it and tell me if she liked it. So she read it, she enjoyed it. I decided it was time for me to bite the bullet. And this book was fine? No, this book was good. This book follows a man named, I want to say Adam, it's not. His name is Jason. Jason goes out to celebrate with one of his friends. He's got a wife and son at home. He loves them. He loves his life. He's very happy. He's content. On the way home, Jason is abducted. And when he wakes up, he is not in his world anymore. He's in a world where he never married his wife and they don't have a son. And that instead of becoming like a father and husband, he ended up becoming a like world famous scientist. This book is about alternate universes, okay? Different dimensions. And I think everyone on this fucking planet knows about this book already, but this book was just a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. I think, without spoiling it, I actually preferred the second half of the book. I enjoyed seeing Jason fight for his family, you know? At the very start, so the first half of the book is Jason in this new world trying to figure out where the fuck he is, how he got there, how to get back, okay? Second half is him being back and fighting for his family, and that was the part that I really loved. This book it's like a sci-fi, it is speculative, it's about traveling between different dimensions, but at the heart of it, it is about a man who loves his wife and son so fucking much that he will do anything to get back to them, and he will do anything to stay with them and to keep them and to protect them, and I love that. It was just a really, by the end, I mean, a lot of it was fucking horrifying. Imagine multiple Stephs in the same room. Terrifying. I would feel sorry for anyone who had to endure it, but there were some really terrifying aspects of this, but at the end of the day, like, this man just really fucking loved his family. He loved his family more than any other version of him possibly could, and I really loved that. I enjoyed this, and I'm so glad I read it. I actually want to read Recursion next, but that seems like maybe a little bit more advanced than my little baby brain can handle. The next book I finished, I do not have with me. It is Tell Me What You Did. This book is currently sitting with my mother because I was reading it and she's like, oh, what are you reading? And I told her and she goes, oh, I don't know if I could read that. That sounds like a bit too much for me. And the next day she's like, so can I borrow it? So Tell Me What You Did is currently sitting with my mom, but I will tell you, I liked this book. I didn't love it. We're following our main character, Poe. Now, Poe was, I think, 12 when she witnessed her mother's murder. She interacted and spoke to her mother's murderer. But no one else knows that she saw him or that she spoke to him. Years later, Poe is done with the sadness and the woe is me thing, and she gets angry. She decides she's going to hunt down her mother's murderer and fucking kill him. So she does. It's great. In current day, Poe is the host of a true crime podcast where people can anonymously come on and confess to their crimes. And she's talking to one of her guests one day, and she's doing her usual spiel, and he's like, come on, Poe, you know who I am. And she's like, no, like, I don't know who you are. And he goes, I'm the man who killed your mother. Mic drop, because Poe's like, that can't be true. I've already killed the man who killed my mother, but no one knows that and I can't prove it. So it was a very interesting game of cat and mouse. Again, I really liked it. It was fun. It was fast paced. I really liked Poe as a character, and the relationship she had with her dad, unmatched, absolutely beautiful, a little bit jealous. But again, the ending, like the reveal wasn't a plot twist. It wasn't one of those reveals that blows your mind but makes perfect sense. It was one of those reveals that makes sense. So I enjoyed it. I hope my mom likes it. But it just, it didn't really hit, like the ending didn't pack a punch, and that's what I was looking for. So I was a teeny tiny bit disappointed, but I still really liked it. The last book I finished in the month of October, guys, I'm so sad about this. It was Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Okay, this was my book club's pick for the month, which I read this book and then I didn't end up going to the book club meeting because I actually couldn't be fucked. So my mom initially read this book first. So she read it. She was like, oh, it's a lesbian romance. And she's so fucking cute. She's like, oh, they're lesbians. And she said that she enjoyed it. She liked it. I read this book thinking I was going to enjoy it. And guys, I did not love this book. I have multiple issues with this book. Least of all, the fact that it's a female-female romance, which I thought was going to be my issue with it. I just don't necessarily love female-female romances, mostly because, to me at least, I think there is a fine line between being best friends, being really close platonic best female friends, and being romantically involved, and sometimes I feel like authors are scared to cross that line, so that's why I typically don't love them. However, that was not my issue in this book. My issue in this book was, first of all, okay, spoilers kind of a little bit. The book opens with a shuttle, I think, getting sent off into space, and very quickly we don't say it gets sent off into space, but we are in ground control with our main character Joan, and she's talking to the shuttle. Long story short, there are, I think, 5 or 6 people in the shuttle, and we find out straight away that 3 of them have died because of this accident that's occurred. Which is fine, except at that point in the book, we had no context to who these people are. So while Joan and... it's not Miranda, Vanessa. While Joan and Vanessa, our 2 main characters, are like absolutely distraught at these people's deaths, we as the reader, we haven't met these people. We know their names. So why at the start of the book you would kill off characters that we're supposed to care about is beyond me, but that was whatever. We continue through the book, and I feel like for the first half of this book, not a single motherfucking thing happened, except for Joan and Vanessa getting closer. Now, another thing that kind of annoyed me, and this is just a me thing because we'll get into it, but constantly there are characters telling Joan, I'm okay with whoever you are. You can be honest about who you are with me. Oh, Joan, I know you better than you know yourself. Like, you don't even know yet. You haven't even realized yet. And the whole time, I'm obviously the reader, and I'm like, oh, all these people know that Joan's a lesbian. They're telling Joan that they know that she's a lesbian and they still support her. That's really, really cool. Except Joan, whether she's play acting stupid or whether she's actually stupid, she always acts like she has no idea what these people are talking about. She's like, what do you mean there's something different about me? Like, what do you mean you know me? Like, she's very, very obtuse. And now because of that, when she does have this realization that she is in fact attracted to Vanessa, I just got really annoyed because as a person, I hate when people tell me that they know me better than I know myself. I know myself better than anyone on this planet ever has a chance of, okay? Like, might be really obvious to people, but I spend the most time with myself. No one else spends as much time with me as I do. So when other people are telling Joan that they know she's a lesbian and she hasn't even like acknowledged or accepted that yet, it pissed me off. So that was one thing that annoyed me. Then we skip forward. There are some things I liked about this book. I think it was a really interesting dynamic between Joan and her sister. Very frustrating, but very interesting. I loved the relationship that Joan had with her niece. That was all fine. But then we get to the ending. And again, I will not say what happens. But it felt like emotional manipulation from Taylor Jenkins Reid, which I did not appreciate. It did not work on me, but it was like, you really just did that? I fucking hated the ending of this book. I think the ending was a cheap cop-out, and I really thought that Taylor Jenkins Reid would be better than that. She wasn't. So I had a lot of issues with this book. Again, I didn't dislike the entire thing. I liked the second half more than the first half, but I hated the ending enough to make none of that matter. So that was how I finished my month. I finished my month on a really positive high note. So, by my calculations, which are probably most definitely incorrect, I think that is 22 books. I have since finished another book, so it is November 1st when I'm filming this. I have finished another book that I started in the last couple of days of October, which, what a fucking wild ride that book was. Don't even want to tell you about it. I think I've got a general plan of my November TBR, but I have also purchased books today, so there will be a haul as well at some point. Either way, what did you guys read in October? Did you enjoy what you read in October? Did you read nothing? What was Halloween like? Talk to me, tell me, and leave a comment, because I fucking told you to.